welcome to Rolling Out a Seat at the Table. My name is Portia Monique, and today I have the absolute pleasure of speaking with Latasha Gillespie, who is the Executive Head of Global Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Accessibility, DEIA for short, for Amazon Studios, Prime Video, and IMDb. Welcome to the show, Latasha.
Thank you, Portia. I am so excited to be here with you. It is a joy and an honor.
Absolutely. I'm very excited to be speaking with you as well. And I learned so much about you in doing my research. But let's talk about your trajectory. So before we delve into your current role, I want to speak to you about your career trajectory, where you came from, where'd you get your start, and ultimately, how did you end up at Amazon? Briefly walk us through your journey.
So listen, it's been anything but a straight path, but it's been the God path and my path. So, I'm excited about that. I grew up outside of Chicago and went to school in Southern Illinois, University of Carbondale, and then went to work in the manufacturing industry. So moved to Central Illinois, to Peoria, Illinois, to work for Caterpillar. Spent 20 years at Caterpillar, started off in finance, then worked in HR. I became a Six Sigma Black Belt. I eventually became their Chief Diversity Officer. And my last assignment in those 20 years and my fifth location was actually living and working in Singapore, where I was the head of HR for Africa, Middle East, CIS in Russia, and all of Asia Pacific. So it was a really amazing, interesting journey over those 20 years in a bunch of different roles, a bunch of different places. And then I got recruited by Amazon. So my family and I, we packed up, we left Singapore after 2+ years and moved to Seattle to be the head of Global Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for Amazon Corporate. So in that role, I worked in the center, worked closely with Jeff Bezos and his directs on a corporate and global DEI strategy. Did that for 2 years and then moved to LA to work for Amazon Studios to do the work that my team currently does today.
Wow, such a plethora of experiences and in so many different regions of the world, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So, such a great experience, right? So if I was in your shoes, I would love to just be a fly on the wall to see it all. But you spent 20 years with Caterpillar. What was one of the most important lessons that you took with you from that phase in your career?
Actually, if you'll indulge me, I'll tell you two.
Yes, absolutely.
The first one was put your own oxygen mask on first. So at Caterpillar, I spent the first 5 years of my career in finance. And I'll be honest, though, it wasn't something that I necessarily enjoyed. I loved the people I worked with. I loved the dealers I worked with in Latin America, Argentina, Bolivia, Chile, Peru, and Uruguay. Loved those relationships, but I didn't really have a passion for the work. But because I was at the time, I was the only African-American and the only woman or African-American woman in a management position in the finance organization, I was afraid that if I left, they wouldn't hire anyone else. And so I had to learn, though, that I had to put my own oxygen mask on first, that before I could help or be of service to anyone else, I had to do what felt right for me. And that was really tough, but it was the best decision I made, and actually, which led me to take my first HR role, which was actually leading or developing Caterpillar's first diversity recruiting strategy. Wonderful. So that's probably my first professional lesson. Put your own oxygen mask on first. And my first personal lesson was, whatever test you don't pass at this level, it shows up at the next level.
Amen.
I ran into difficult people and situations, and I'm the kind of person where I feel like I can give it as good as I get it, right? And I had to learn the lesson was not about what the person was doing to me or saying to me or how they were treating me. The lesson was about how I respond. The lesson was not about whether or not such and such push my buttons. The lesson was about, I needed to disarm the buttons so you can push them all you want. but no missiles will be fired. And I can think of a distinct situation where I failed that test when I was living and working in Mississippi, and that same test showed up in San Diego.
Tell us more, but let's hear it, details about that.
And the interesting was it was a difficult personal relationship with someone that I was working with, and it just started off as adversarial, and it felt like it predated me. Like when I got there, it was a little bit of a tension, and I didn't know where it came from. And excuse me, and the person and I just could not seem to get along and work well together. And we'd be petty and silly things, right, that you do.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna say her name, but we're gonna call her Jane.
I'll call her Jane.
We're gonna call her Jane. So Jane and I couldn't quite get it together. And I was in that role for 2.5 years and then moved on to San Diego. And I'll be darned if the same situation didn't show up, except for this time her name was Sally.
Wow.
And I had to learn, like, oh, this was never about Jane. It was all about my reaction to Jane. And same with Sally. Now, I can actually say today, Jane and I are good friends. We had an honest conversation with each other as grown women, right? To say, you know what? I probably didn't behave, the way I should have in that situation. And neither did I. And I'm going to ask you for forgiveness for that. And I hope that we can, put that behind us and, wish each other well in this phase in life. And we keep in touch and we keep in contact. I've learned all about her grandkids. Like it's good now, but it was a lesson I had to learn.
Wonderful. I love both of those. And if anyone, I'm sure people are watching, but they should be able to take that away and apply it to their own personal life. And especially that second one, in terms of making sure that you learn that lesson when you can, because it's not going anywhere, right?
No.
It's not going to go anywhere, and you get to that next level and it's going to reappear. So you just have to conquer it. And I like the way that you put it. You said, I had to disarm. I love that. I had to disarm my reaction. And so that's something that I'm definitely going to take away, because it's not about what they do to you. It's about how you respond and react to it. So
yeah. But that little Chicago girl comes out of her every now and again, and you have to put her back in the box.
sometimes like some days I got time, some days I'm gonna disarm.
But I tell you what, it's a lesson that has applied in my life in a lot of ways, not just with relationships, but with a lot of things, with goals, with finances, with whatever. Like, I think it's applicable regardless of what area of your life you're talking about. It's learn the lesson the first time around so that you don't have to repeat it.
Valuable, very valuable. Okay, now I want to get into your current role at Amazon Video and IMDb.
Yes.
What is it exactly that you do, and what does a typical day-to-day look like for you?
Well, first of all, Portia, don't tell anybody, but I think I have the world's best job.
Okay.
So it's a lot of fun. I work for an amazing leader, Jennifer Saki, who's an incredible woman. And I work with a talented group of folks on my team, and together we get to do work that actually matters. So on a day-to-day, my team is responsible for 3 things. We're responsible for ensuring that there's diverse representation in front of the camera, behind the camera, above the line, and below the line. So my team is the one out there actually working with the creative execs, working with content creators to figure out how we do that in a very authentic way. And then the second thing that we're responsible for is ensuring that we don't perpetuate harmful stereotypes and tropes in our content. So there's no leadership principle more important to Amazonians than customer obsession. We obsess over customers. And so we want to make sure that we never want to do harm to customers because of any piece of content we put out there. Now, listen, that's not to say you can't have a villain in a show, that you got to have a little drama in the show. Somebody has to be the villain sometimes. But what we're saying is we want to make sure that the villain isn't always the person of color, or the only person of color is the villain in the show. We want to make sure that if we're telling queer and trans stories, that there's people in the writer's room with that lived experience, so that we're telling fully nuanced characters, not caricatures, right? We want to do it in a way and help our content creators do it in a way such that when you watch any show on Prime Video, Portia, that you feel like you see your authentic lived experience when you see it. And when you're watching a show that maybe is about someone else's culture, that it gives you a sneak peek into their authentic lived experience in a way that increases your humanity towards them, right? Absolutely. And so that's the second thing that we do. And then the last thing that we do is, sometimes what's the harder work, which is internally inspecting ourselves and asking ourselves, where have we perhaps created barriers to entry or barriers to success, and how do we dismantle those and rebuild our own internal systems with equity? And that's a lot of the work that that I'm doing with Howard Entertainment and some of those type programs, where we're trying to rebuild the system with equity.
Yes. And you just briefly spoke of the Howard partnership that you guys have. Give us some more insight into that. What is it? I believe it's in its third year right now. Yeah. And just tell us more about that program.
Sure. It's my baby, so I'm happy to tell you about it. It's a program. The goal of the program is to increase the number of Black executives, Black and Brown executives in the entertainment industry. We have a lot of people of color who are content creators, who are writers, directors, actors, but we don't always have the executives in the room. So when those people come to pitch, that there's somebody in the room that looks like them that's saying, oh yeah, this is gonna be hot. Or the right people sitting in the marketing seats to know how to make sure the intended audience knows about the show and it's getting to them in the markets that they trust. Or that we have the right people who understand the finance or even the production side, like how you light us, how you, right? Those kind of things that are important, hair and makeup, like all of those things that are super important. So we want to make sure that we're creating this pipeline of executives with that lived experience. And so it's a 2-semester program. In the spring, they go through classes that are taught by a combination of Howard professors and also industry executives. And in the summer, they actually have a fellowship where they're working either with Amazon Studios or one of our production partners. We've had students placed with Viola Davis's production company, Tracy Oliver's production company, Macro and Charles King and family over there. We've had law school students over there. So we try to place them in really amazing strategic fellowship positions where they're actually learning the business side of television and film. And during these 2 semesters, this is the part where equity comes in. We pay for their tuition, we pay for their housing, we pay for their, they get a food stipend, transportation stipend, living expense stipend. And we do this because we know that 60% of HBCU students are Pell Grant eligible, which means they're living below the poverty line, right? So they can't afford to just move out to LA for $9 an hour and, take a job without having to work a second job or, send money home. And so we don't want them having to worry about that stuff. We want them, our hypothesis was, if we level the playing field, I guarantee these kids will show up and show out.
So I also wanted to talk about partnerships when it comes to small media. How can small media companies, in particular, Black-owned media, partner with and widen the wins with Amazon Studios?
So the great thing about Amazon is that we consider ourselves not just Prime Video, but actually an entertainment destination. So if I think about like production companies, so we have deals with production companies like Viola Davis's production company and Michael B. Jordan's production company, Lizzo Bangers, which is Lizzo's production company, right? So we actively work with Black-owned production companies to produce content for our customers. So that's one way in which we work with folks. And that work you may see actually on Prime Video, but also you may see it on our other service, which is called Freebie, which is an ad-based service, which is free to anybody. So you don't have to have a Prime membership to watch Freebie. So Spring Hill has a project on there, a project we're doing with LeBron James, Top Class, which follows Sierra Canyon High School, LeBron's son and Dwayne Wade's son, through, you know, their basketball careers at the high school level. So you may see productions from Black-owned businesses on both Prime Video and on Freevee. But then also, because of our ability to have channels and different things, you know, it's nice in that other networks like BET or TMC or other Black-owned networks can actually show their content through Prime. So if you have a Prime membership, you can actually also subscribe to other channels and watch content from some of those Black-owned networks as well, which is great. And then for the independent, we have Prime Video Direct. So if you're an independent person of one out there making content, and you know you don't have the benefit of a production company like Michael B. Jordan's, or you know you don't have a Byron Allen whole network, but you want people to see your content, Prime Video Direct, you can actually upload your content directly onto Prime Video through Prime Video Direct. It's kind of like Kindle Direct Publishing for books. You know, you can publish your books on Kindle Direct Publishing. Mm-hmm. You can do the same with your content through Prime Video Direct, and we actually share in the stream. So you know, it's nice. Folks can actually get their content up where people can watch it.
So of course, we were speaking of Howard University, HBCU partnership between your company and their company, but that is a wonderful organization. That's a wonderful program that students can get into. And along those lines, you guys kind of nurture and cultivate them into these executives, right? So yeah. Let's talk about the benefit of mentoring these students so that when they do get to this level, they can hit the ground running and know exactly what needs to be done.
You know, it's so funny because sometimes I don't know if I'm mentoring them or they're mentoring me. Listen, when I tell you these young people are brilliant,
yeah,
I mean, really brilliant.
Yeah, no, they are really.
The ideas that they bring to us are amazing. You know, everyone is trying to reach 18 to 24-year-old young adults with content because they're the group that streams the most content every single day. And so it's a key market for every streamer, every network, every, you know, cable outlet. You know, how do you program for that particular audience? And having those students with us internally, working on the creative development side, working on the marketing side, working in all the different areas of Amazon Studios, they have given us so much insight in terms of what their demographic is looking for, wants, appeals to them, what turns them off. Like they are so honest in their feedback, which I love. Very professional, but very honest about, you know, like, you know, what's hot and what's not.
Yeah, and person does not have an issue with telling you the truth.
Listen,
whatever is on their mind, right?
And they do it in such a, you know, and I tell them they're so poised and so professional. They do it in such an amazing way too that I almost get a chuckle out of it. But you know, we've learned as much from them, I think, as we have taught them, and that's the beauty of this. You know, it's the program. You know, from a monetary standpoint, it is expensive, but when you think about the return you get, it's a small investment. We're getting way more out of it than we could have even imagined.
Now, we don't have enough time. Thank you for that. But we don't have enough time to talk about everything that I want to talk about in this interview. So let's kind of continue down that route of DEI, and let's talk about the changing role of the DEI practitioner. And then we'll get to some of the personal things about you so that we can get to know you better. But first, let's talk about the changing role of the DEI practitioner since 2020.
Yeah, I don't know that for most of us doing this work, I don't know that really it changed. We knew the issues.
Right. I saw it on your face. Go ahead.
Right. We knew what time it was. We knew the issues. We knew where things were. I think for most of us, though, we also realized that we had a window of opportunity. That while the world was singularly focused on the events that around the murder of George Floyd and everything that went along with that, we understood that we had to move with a sense of urgency while the appetite was there for real change. Because unfortunately, we've seen this cycle before where something tragic happens, the world all wakes up and says, we must do better. And then 6 months, the media cycle has changed and everybody has gone back to business as usual. So if anything, I think it helped us really increase our sense of urgency to move and do things. Now, what I hope is, and I know a lot of my peers have done this, but where we needed to really focus was on systems and structural change, not performative change. This was not the incident to go and read to kindergartners or start a mentoring program. This is why we created the inclusion policy and playbook to say, from here on out, this is what better looks like. These are the standards we're holding ourselves accountable to, and we're asking you as an industry to hold hands and do this with us.
Love that. Now, how is empowerment and integration key to success in this space?
Yeah, I think, let me start with the integration piece. I think to be a successful DEI person, you have to understand, you have to have business acumen. The people always want to tell me, oh, I'm so passionate about diversity. That's great, but passion alone is not going to make a difference in your organization. You need business acumen. You need to understand the widget that your organization makes. And then you need to understand how you influence the processes around making that widget in a way that make it more equitable and inclusive for your customers, right? And so I think the business acumen is important to the integration. DEI often fails because it's felt like an add-on program on top of something versus integrated into the way you already work. At Amazon, there's nothing more important to us than customer obsession, which is why our whole DEI strategy is rooted in the question of, are we equitably obsessing over customers? Then from an empowerment standpoint, listen, if organizations are serious about this work, you have to, one, hire credible people to do the work. Everybody thinks anybody can do DEI, and that's not true. Just like, no, everybody can't be a journalist, everyone can't be an accountant, everyone can't be a DEI professional. So hire credible people who can do the work, place them in an organization where they have agency and authority to actually influence and make change. So preferably outside of HR. And then thirdly, I think it's really important also to arm them with the resources, whether that's headcount and budget necessary to do the work you've asked them to do.
Love that. And how do you see the future of DEI work evolving?
Yeah, it's ever changing. I think, again, listen, today we're having a different conversation around gender identity and pronouns than we were having 5 years ago. I think COVID and long haul COVID is going to change the conversations around disability. I think it's going to always continue to evolve and grow. And I don't think we'll ever get to the point where we don't need a function like DEI, because I think, again, just the world looks different today than it did 30 years ago. When you think about the number of 2 or more races in terms of people and population that are growing, like we're going to be having different conversations in 15 years from now than we're having today.
Love that. Now, we got a time crunch. Let's talk about getting to know you personally, right? So personally and professionally. But as the global DEINA at Amazon Prime and IMDb, what motivates you and inspires you to show up at work every day?
The people I do this work for. And so I think about the fact that at this stage of my life, I'm over, God willing, I'm probably halfway through my life and definitely over halfway through my career. And so every single day has to matter. Every day I have to do something that makes a difference on this earth. Otherwise, I'm taking up space.
Every day. No, you're right. And how do you set goals and how do you evaluate that success?
Yeah, I think long term, in terms of, again, if I think about what does success look like for me, it's 2 things. It's every creative person that does business with us says, you know what, when I work on an Amazon project, I feel seen, I feel heard, I feel safe. I feel like I'm able to do my best work. And then secondly, when customers watch our content, for them to say, wow, I really see my lived experience, or I have a better understanding of how someone else navigates or moves through the world because of what I watched. I was entertained, but it also increased my humanity.
Now, professional development as a successful woman, leadership, global head, all of that is very important. Yeah. If you can, share 3 books with us that changed how you saw your life and that you would recommend to others. Transformational.
Number 1, the Bible. And I mean that in all sincerity.
Absolutely.
Women like us who are very driven sometimes can get so wrapped up in the problem that we forget about who the problem solver is, as if he doesn't have receipts. I'm just saying. So the Bible or the book of the deity of your choice. The second one that I would say is Michelle Obama's Becoming.
Yes.
And then the third one actually is Steve Jobs' autobiography.
Wonderful.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. And what are the three most important factors of being a successful woman, in your opinion?
For me, it's faith. First and foremost, it's family. I have an amazing husband of 24 years who just recently reproposed to me in Paris. So I call him my fuzzman, my fiance / husband.
Oh, congratulations.
2 amazing sons. So I would say my faith, my family, and friends. Like, I have really good friends who, like, who keep me grounded, accountable, who are honest, sometimes brutally, and also keep all my secrets. I mean,
Yeah. I love that. FFF, faith, family, friends. Beautiful. Yeah. And if you could, as a Black woman leading a global company in DEIA, all of the challenges that we face with the world, from corporate to personal to everything in between, what would you consider your superpower to be?
My superpower is inspiration. I know God has gifted me with words in a way that he will give me a word for his people. Sometimes I don't even know where it's coming from or why, but just he has chosen me for whatever reason to be in situations where the words that come out of my mouth can actually change someone's perspective on how they see their life or their current situation and give them hope. And I'm grateful for that.
I love that. It has been a pleasure speaking with you today. Let us know where we can follow you personally, find out more information about your companies and all of those great things.
Listen, I would love for you to go on our website, which is dei.amazonstudios.com. You can learn all about the inclusion policy and playbook and our voices events. We would hope you would come out and join us at one of them. And then personally, I'm easy to follow. I am on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, all under Latasha Gillespie.
Love that. Love. Thank you so much. I am Portia Monique for A Seat at the Table with Rolling Out, and I have had the pleasure of speaking with Latasha Gillespie. Thank you so much.
Thank you. From one Monique to another. It was a blessing.